So once you have Live2D opened, you'll want to open up your model. Live2D only processes PSD files, and PSD files are preserved layer images. So I'm going to open up my PSD file right now. And you can see that the irises kind of overlap with the whites, and if you want to do that, you have to assign the ID of the whites to the clipping parameter of the left iris. So the ID of the whites is artmesh8, and I'll just put that into the clipping ID slot. I'll do the same for the right eye. And you'll see that it doesn't overlap anymore. It's like basically clipping on a normal paint program. Select your entire model and click Auto Mesh Generator. Auto Mesh Generator is the polygon with the auto at the bottom. Usually I do standard preset first, because if you do a high preset, it'll take longer to render and it might break your model with incorrect polygons. For the eyes, select the deformation to heavy, because you'll have to edit that a lot. Heavy deformation on the other eye too, and for the top lips and the bottom lips too. So once you got that down, you'll want to set little path deformers on the eyes, so just use 3 points. You can add more if you want to. Same goes for the lips. Remember to save your file a lot, because sometimes Live2D crashes and you don't want to experience the pain of re-rigging a model. Okay. So you want to set up your rotation deformers now. So basically I just set rotation deformer for head, left arm, left hand, right arm, right hand, bust, left thigh, left foot, right thigh, right foot, and those are all the rotation deformers I set up. So just click the rotation, the manual, I don't know how to explain it, but there's 2 types of rotation deformers, a procedural one and a manual one, where you can directly put it on the mesh. You won't have the option to name it though, but you can adjust the name settings in the sidebar over here in the inspector. So I'll just name that head. Set a deformer for the front hair for physics. Front hair. So just kind of test how the deformer works. So I think that's good. Hair. I don't think I need a deformer for that. Set a deformer for the bust. And you can set the parents for the deformers. You can assign parents and child to the deformers. So basically you'll have to do that for the arm, head, and connect them to the bust. But that's procedural and you'll do that later. But for now, you'll just want to set down your deformers. Remember to name your deformers for organizational purposes. Just try to follow and copy what I'm doing. Okay, so once you have all your rotation deformers set down, you'll want to assign parents. So you'll see that the front hair deformer is already assigned to the head because that we created the head deformer before the front hair deformer. But for the rest, you have to manually drag and drop. So left hand to left arm, and you'll see that the bottom left hand moves along with the top hand now because its parent is assigned. But for this, the right arm where the parent isn't assigned, the right hand kind of acts as an individual object, so it doesn't move along with the arm. Let me set that up right now, and there you go. Don't worry about the deformers too much. If they look kind of weird, you can manually adjust that with parameters later, but just continue setting up your deformers. Left arm, right arm, and head should be assigned to bust. And right thigh and left thigh can stay individual objects. So you'll see like that. After this, you should probably set up your warp deformers. For this, I just select the entirety of the hair deformers. The head deformers actually, and I click this button. It's called the warp deformer and it's procedural, so just name it and create it. Sometimes it'll kind of bug out, but don't worry about it too much. Okay, so I got that done. And you'll see that the warp deformer doesn't cover the entire perimeter of the head. Just hold down Control and you can edit the warp deformer without actually moving the object. So, in the Show tab, there will be an option to show and hide bounding blocks, and that'll be especially helpful for editing warp deformers. And I assigned a keyboard shortcut for it, so it just automatically does that. And you'll see the warp deformer works now. You can do warp deformers for the rest of the body if you want to. I assigned a warp deformer to the head and also assigned one to the bust. Just the procedural the procedural creation of deformers is kind of hard to deal with, so just kind of play around with it until you get it right. Okay. And you'll see that works now. Assign a warp deformer to the irises so you don't have to deal with editing the meshes. Okay, so just adjust that to the perimeter. Oops. And you'll see that works now. So basically you have all your deformers set up for your model and you can start setting up parameters. This is the tedious part. So start off your angle XY parameters. These are the parameters for the head. So head rotation. So if you adjust the parameter to the right side, that means it's moving towards the right direction. Remember to be careful with how you're setting up your parameters, because there is a more standard way of setting, there's standard ways of setting up parameters, and and if you don't set it up that way, like, most programs won't recognize it correctly, but if you're just using it to animate on Live2D, then you're basically fine if you set it up in a weird way. I think that's good. And time for angle Y. Same principles apply. Make sure you're adjusting it in a standard way. So the more positive this value gets, the higher it should go, but the more negative this value gets, the lower it should go, basically, for the Y parameter. And I like to chain these two parameters together, and I'll select them and click synthesize corners. So basically, the warp deformer will adapt to each other, adapt to each of the parameter points, and it'll look smooth. So if you don't synthesize corners, it will end up looking very wonky, and it'll just switch between dominant and undominant parameters. But if you synthesize corners, it will be smoother. Time for angle Z. Remember to save, because you don't want to lose your progress. There you go. Let me try to edit this a bit. Okay. Remember to set up XY parameters for your body too. And you'll see it looks kind of weird when the rotation deformer moves along with the warp deformer, so you can fix that manually. I'm gonna fix that up a bit. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so XY is set up for body. And if you're wondering why I'm not editing the art mesh itself and setting a parameter to it, is because I only edit the art mesh in special exceptions because I find it easier to just upload like a bunch of art meshes at once using a mesh deformer. So art meshes are just like, when you edit them, it's hard to fix them because there's a lot of points, and for deformers, they all have like limited amount of points, so it's easier for me to edit it. Let's use the body Z parameter. Oops. So if you're wondering what parameters do, parameters basically record the position of the thing that you're editing. So let me fix this. Okay, I'm gonna assign the arms body Z parameter too, so I can apply this. And then let's do a breathing parameter. For breathing parameter, you only need 2 points, you don't need 3 points. Oops. So, breathing 2 parameter dots, and then I'll just make the chest inhale and exhale. Simple. And let's do the hair physics. Hair move front, 3 parameter dots, and I'll just move it, make it move side to side. Remember to save your files. Start adding the movement to the hair sides using the parameter.
Was that Juice WRLD?
I think there's a ghost in my room, guys. I'm scared.
You are fine.
It's laughing so hard. It must have been a clown in its past life. Okay, so you'll have to apply the. Shut the fuck up.
How are you continuing with this?
You have to apply the physics settings. So basically, click modeling, and at the bottom of the tab, you should see open physics / scene blending settings. Okay, so the tab is open. At the top, it should say group, valid, add, duplicate, group editing. Click add. Put this name as hair. Set the input preset as head input, and you can use any of the physics model presets, but I usually like triple or double pendulum. Basically, the presets are settings that you can apply. It's basically a template, but for the output settings, you should put in your own. So let me put in hair move front and hair move side, and you'll see that hair move front and the hair at the front and the hair at the side moves when the head turns. and let's play it and see how it goes. So right now I'll play a sample animation. And you'll see the pendulum move, and it'll affect how much the hair moves, basically. So as far as I know, overall acceleration it basically smothers the motion. Reaction time affects how fast the pendulum reacts to actual movement from the parameters. Shaking, it just increases how much it bounces back and forth. If your shaking is really low, then it won't bounce back and forth as much, but if your shaking is higher, then it will bounce back and forth like how the pendulum is right now. For the Dora ability, the Dora input, it's basically just the pendulum length. Don't worry about it too much. God, fly! Motherfucker. So, I'm gonna edit my parameters because I don't really like how they look at the moment. This is the finished output. I still need to add parameters to the arms and all the rotation joints I added, but that's optional. I know that some of you guys may not have the pro version of Live2D, so just try to stick to what you have. Okay, finish the parameters for the legs and let's test out how they move. Oh my god. Yeah, the physics tab isn't working. I just opened up another one of them. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, physics tab is working. Let me test out how the joints move. So you can see the glasses now have physics. I applied physics to the glasses using XY parameters. I put the input to double pendulum and yeah. See, they kind of wiggle now. And I'll play the random pose. Kind of weird. So you'll just see everything is working correctly. And now it's time to do the face animations, which is my least favorite. Okay, so we have the blink for the right eye, and we need to apply it to the left eye. I usually delete the smile parameter, but you can use it if you want. I find it kind of unnecessary. Okay, time for the next eye. Oh, motherfucker. Okay, so here's the blinking parameters. Go into the little sidebar and there should be settings for eye blinking and lip sync. Select eye blink, eye left open and eye right open. Lip sync should be mouth form and mouth open. For the lips, the two settings you should use are mouth form and mouth open. I like to link the two. Do that. Okay, so I like to add some extra parameters, but you can skip this, of course. It is a bit tedious to do like more parameters, but it makes the character more expressive. Okay, there we have our mouth parameter. So basically I'm finished with the model, and this is a finished product-ish. It looks, let me do this. It looks like this, somewhat. I'll show it to you. So I added the mouth parameter and the eye parameter. You see that the eyes now follow the cursor when I drag it. And I'll start the random pose animation. It's always wacky. I really like the rotation for, like, instead of like deforming the hair, using rotations for the physics, and it's like always more like charming in a way. And that's the finished model. This tutorial wasn't too in-depth, but I hope it helped you nonetheless.